Have you ever wondered why you lose control only when it matters most? Not when life is calm, not when things are easy, but when pressure hits. A relationship ends quietly but permanently. A job disappears overnight. A single moment of anger costs you respect you can't get back. And afterward, the question isn't philosophical. It's personal. Why did I react, even though I knew better? If you've ever asked that, this video is for you. Because Stoicism doesn't exist to make life easier. It exists to make you steadier when life isn't. In the next 25 minutes, I'll show you the practical system the Stoics actually used. Not quotes, not emotional shutdown, but 3 disciplines that keep you human under pressure. How to see clearly, how to act with principle, how to accept reality without losing yourself. And at the end, I'll give you a 10-second Stoic practice to stop the spiral before it becomes a reaction. But first, we need to clear up the biggest misunderstanding, the one that quietly ruins people who think they're practicing Stoicism correctly. 1. The problem. Why modern people misunderstand Stoicism. Here's the trap. Most people use Stoicism as a shield, when it was designed as a mirror. Somewhere along the way, Stoicism picked up a reputation it never asked for. People started using the word Stoic to describe someone who doesn't react, someone who doesn't show emotion, someone who looks calm but feels distant. And slowly, quietly, that idea spread. So now, when many people say they're being Stoic, what they really mean is this: they're holding everything in. They don't say what hurts them. They don't admit when something matters. They tell themselves, I shouldn't feel this. Instead of asking, what is this trying to tell me? I've seen this play out so clearly in real life. A man gets criticized at work. He doesn't respond, but he also doesn't process it. He drives home with his jaw clenched, answers his partner in one-word sentences, and calls it Stoicism. A relationship starts to crack. Instead of having the hard conversation, someone pulls away emotionally. They say they're being rational, but what they're really doing is avoiding discomfort. Here's the uncomfortable truth. That isn't Stoicism. That's emotional suppression, wearing philosophical clothing. If you're using Stoicism to avoid hard conversations, to stay silent instead of being honest, you're not practicing Stoicism. You're hiding behind it. The ancient Stoics weren't trying to feel less. They were trying to see more clearly. Marcus Aurelius wasn't calm because he didn't care. He was calm because he cared deeply and trained himself not to be ruled by impulse. Epictetus wasn't detached from life. He was intensely engaged with it, just without confusing emotion for judgment. Modern culture often teaches us one of 2 extremes: either express everything immediately or shut down completely. Stoicism sits in a third position most people miss. It says, feel what arises. Pause before believing it. Act according to principle, not pressure. And when people misunderstand that, something subtle but dangerous happens. They don't become stronger. They become colder. They don't become calmer. They become disconnected from others and eventually from themselves. Stoicism doesn't ask you to stop feeling. It asks you to stop surrendering to the first story your emotions tell. That difference matters, because if you believe Stoicism is about not caring, you'll use it to retreat from life. But if you understand it correctly, you'll use it to stay present without breaking. So before we talk about discipline, virtue, control, we need to name what the Stoics were training first. not behavior, not emotion, perception. Because the moment you change how you see what's happening, everything else begins to change with it. And that's where we go next. 2. What Stoicism is actually for. The goal isn't happiness, it's stability. Stoics didn't chase happiness. They trained to become dependable under pressure. Most of us grow up believing the same quiet promise, that if we make the right choices, work hard enough, care about the right things, life will eventually feel good. And when it doesn't, we assume something has gone wrong. But the Stoics were never chasing a life that felt good. They were training for a life that could be trusted. Marcus Aurelius didn't wake up each morning asking, "Will today make me happy?" He asked a harder question. Can I meet today without losing myself? Because happiness is fragile. It rises and falls with circumstances. It depends on things going your way. Stability doesn't. Stability is what remains when the mood drops, when plans fall apart, when people disappoint you. I once watched someone lose their job on a Tuesday morning, and by 11:47 p.m., they were still sitting in their car, in a grocery store parking lot, thumb hovering over send, 3 angry emails, 3 subject lines that felt powerful in the moment, and burned every bridge they needed for the next chapter. Not because they were stupid, but because stress took the wheel. Now, here's what's important. Another person can get the same news and still keep their dignity intact. 2 people, same pressure. 1 spirals, 1 steadies. It's not that one person feels less. It's that one person has a center that doesn't move every time life shifts. That center is what the Stoics called virtue. Not morality in the abstract, not perfection. Virtue meant something simpler and harder, being reliable to your principles under pressure, wisdom when emotions run hot, courage when avoidance feels safer, justice when no one is watching, temperance when excess is available. To the Stoics, this was the only true form of success. Everything else, money, status, comfort, praise, useful sometimes, enjoyable sometimes, but never stable. If your well-being depends on how today goes, you're always one bad moment away from losing your footing. Stoicism doesn't promise happiness. It offers something quieter but stronger, a way to remain intact, even when the outer world rearranges itself. And once you understand that, something shifts. You stop asking, "How do I feel right now?" And you start asking, "How do I want to respond to this?" That question doesn't eliminate pain, but it prevents pain from becoming chaos. And to answer it well, the Stoics knew something had to come first. Before action, before discipline, before will, you had to learn how to see what was happening, clearly, honestly, without distortion. That's where Stoicism truly begins, and that's where we turn next. 3. Discipline of perception. How Stoics train the mind under stress. Before you lose control, you don't snap. You believe a story. Before people lose control, something quieter happens first. Not an action, not a decision, a thought. It appears so quickly that we barely notice it, and almost always we believe it immediately. This is disrespect. This shouldn't be happening. I can't let this slide. To the Stoics, this moment was everything, because they understood something most of us were never taught. Stress doesn't begin with events. It begins with the meaning we assign to them. Epictetus put it simply, It's not things that disturb us, but our judgments about things. That wasn't poetry. It was a practical instruction. Think about a familiar situation. You send a message. Hours pass. No reply. Nothing objectively harmful has happened. But inside, a story starts forming. They're ignoring me. I said something wrong. This doesn't matter to them. Your body reacts before you can correct it. Chest tightens. Breath shortens. Mood shifts. The Stoics would say, the message didn't disturb you. Your interpretation did. And here's where Stoic training begins. Not by denying the reaction, not by forcing calm, but by inserting a pause between perception and belief. They practiced asking one quiet question. Is this fact or is this interpretation? That pause may only last a few seconds, but it changes everything. A criticism becomes information instead of an attack. A delay becomes neutral instead of insulting. A setback becomes a situation instead of a verdict. Marcus Aurelius trained himself to strip events down to their raw form. Not, I've been humiliated, but someone spoke words. Not, this is unbearable, but this is uncomfortable. This wasn't emotional repression. It was emotional precision. Stop, right here. This is where most people lose their life to one bad sentence in their head. The Stoics didn't try to erase feeling. They tried to prevent false meaning from hijacking action. You don't control the first thought, but you control whether you give it authority. Most suffering comes from granting instant trust to the loudest interpretation in the room. Stoic perception training teaches you to slow that trust down, to let the thought appear without letting it decide. And once you see this clearly, something powerful happens. You stop fighting reality, and you stop fighting yourself. You begin to respond, not from wounded pride or fear, but from principle. If this is hitting home, comment one word: pause. Not for me, as a reminder for yourself. But perception alone isn't enough. Seeing clearly is only the first step. What matters next is what you do with that clarity. Because Stoicism was never meant to end in observation. It was meant to shape action. And that's where we go next. 4. Discipline of action. Stoicism is not passive, it's ethical pressure. A calm person isn't automatically a good person. Stoicism cares about what you do when calm is hard. There's another quiet misunderstanding about Stoicism that shows up. Once people learn to stay calm, they begin to confuse restraint with inaction. They learn to pause. They learn to regulate emotion. And then slowly they stop moving. They tell themselves they're being patient, objective, detached. But what they're really doing is avoiding responsibility. The Stoics were deeply suspicious of that kind of stillness, because to them, calm was never the goal. Right action was. Marcus Aurelius didn't write his thoughts in a palace for inspiration. He wrote them on campaign, while governing, negotiating, fighting disease, and making decisions that affected thousands of lives. Stoicism was forged in motion. It was a philosophy for people who had to act, even when clarity was incomplete and comfort was unavailable. The discipline of action asks a simple, uncomfortable question. Now that you see clearly, what will you do? Not what feels safest, not what feels justified, but what aligns with your principles. Because once emotion is regulated, excuses lose their cover. You can't blame anger for cruelty. You can't blame fear for silence. You can't blame chaos for abandoning your values. I've seen this play out in small, ordinary moments. Someone notices a problem at work, an unfair policy, a quiet injustice. They see it clearly. But speaking up feels risky. Stoicism doesn't tell them to explode. It doesn't tell them to withdraw. It asks, what would a just person do here, even if it costs something? Or, in relationships, a conversation needs to happen. Avoidance feels calm. Silence feels rational. But silence also erodes trust. Stoic action isn't reactive honesty. It's timely, measured courage. Speaking when it matters. Holding boundaries without hostility. Doing what needs to be done without the drama of self-righteousness. And sometimes the hardest part isn't the big decision. It's the quiet moment after you win an argument and you realize you just lost something else. I remember a man telling me he didn't regret the words he said. He regretted the silence that followed. Not the silence in the room, the silence in the person he loved. They were still there, but you could feel them pull away. That's the cost of acting from pressure instead of principle. Stoicism removes emotional excuses, not moral responsibility. Once you can see clearly and stay regulated, you are accountable for how you act. And that pressure is intentional. The Stoics believed character was revealed, not in moments of reflection, but in moments of choice. You don't become just by thinking about justice. You become just by choosing it, when it's inconvenient. But even disciplined action has its limits. You can act wisely, and still not control outcomes. You can do the right thing, and still lose. Which is why Stoicism doesn't end with action. It teaches one final discipline, the one that protects your inner freedom, when results refuse to cooperate. That's where we turn next. 5. Discipline of will. Freedom through acceptance, not resignation. Acceptance isn't giving up. It's stopping the war with reality so you can win the war for your character. There's a word that makes many people uncomfortable when they first encounter Stoicism. Acceptance. It sounds passive, like giving up, like saying, this is fine, when it clearly isn't. But that's not what the Stoics meant at all. To them, acceptance wasn't surrender. It was clarity. Epictetus drew a simple line that changes everything. Once you really see it, there are things that are up to you, and there are things that aren't. Your judgments, your choices, your actions, those are yours. Other people's reactions, the past, outcomes, luck, timing, those are not. Most suffering comes from crossing that line, trying to control what was never ours to command. A relationship ends, and someone spends months replaying conversations, trying to rewrite what's already happened. A promotion goes to someone else, and resentment grows, not because of the loss, but because of the belief that it should have gone differently. A mistake becomes a life sentence, because the mind refuses to release the past. The Stoics didn't deny the pain in these moments. They denied the illusion of control. They practiced acceptance not to feel better, but to stop wasting energy on battles that cannot be won. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, you have power over your mind, not outside events. That wasn't comfort. It was instruction. Acceptance, in the Stoic sense, is the moment you say, this is what is, not because you like it, not because it's fair, but because resisting reality adds a second layer of suffering. If you keep saying, this shouldn't be happening, you'll stay stuck in the same day forever. even when time moves on. The pain isn't what breaks you. It's the argument you keep having with reality. Someone treats you unfairly. You can't undo their behavior. You can't control their character. But you can choose whether bitterness takes root or whether you respond with steadiness and self-respect. Acceptance doesn't mean approving what happened. It means releasing the demand that it shouldn't have happened. And that release creates space. Space to act wisely, space to protect your character, space to move forward without dragging resentment behind you. Freedom doesn't come from controlling outcomes. It comes from aligning your effort with what is actually yours to shape. When you stop fighting reality, your will becomes focused instead of exhausted. You don't give up. You reclaim your energy. But there's one final question left. If Stoicism teaches perception, action, and acceptance so effectively, why does it feel more relevant now than ever before? Why does this ancient system still outperform so much modern advice? That's where we go next. 6. Why Stoicism works today. Why this ancient system still beats modern self-help. Modern advice tries to make you feel better. Stoicism trains you to become better under pressure. At this point, a reasonable question usually comes up. If Stoicism is so old, born in a world without technology, without therapy language, without modern psychology, why does it still feel so accurate today? The answer isn't that modern self-help is wrong. It's that most of it was built for a different problem. Much of today's advice focuses on one goal, helping you feel better. And sometimes that matters. Relief has its place. But life doesn't always ask how you feel. Sometimes it asks who you are under pressure. I've seen people who know every coping technique, who can name every emotion they're experiencing, who've consumed years of advice, still unravel when something real happens. A conflict they can't avoid, a responsibility they can't quit, a loss they didn't choose. Not because they lacked insight, but because they were trained to seek comfort, not capacity. Stoicism was built for capacity. It doesn't ask, how do I make this feeling go away? It asks, what does this moment require of my character? Take a simple modern example. Someone criticizes you publicly unfairly. Modern advice often splits into two extremes: react immediately or cut the person off completely. Stoicism suggests a third path. Pause. Separate the event from the meaning. Decide what response aligns with who you want to be. Not what discharges emotion fastest, but what preserves your integrity. That pause is why Stoicism still works. It creates a small gap between stimulus and response, where choice can exist. And over time, those small gaps add up. You become someone people trust under stress. Not because you're calm all the time, but because you're consistent. You don't disappear when things get hard. You don't explode when things get unfair. You remain reachable to others and to yourself. Stoicism doesn't promise relief. It builds reliability. Reliability of judgment. Reliability of action. Reliability of character. In a world full of advice telling you to curate your environment, Stoicism teaches you to strengthen the one place you can't escape from, your own mind. And once that strength is there, peace stops being something you chase. It becomes something you carry. Which brings us to the final moment of this conversation. Not about Stoicism as an ancient philosophy, but about the kind of person you choose to be. When life stops cooperating, that's where we end. So, after everything we've talked about, There's one thing worth saying clearly. Stoicism was never meant to make life easy. It was meant to make you steady. It doesn't promise happiness on demand. It doesn't offer shortcuts around pain. It doesn't pretend the world is fair. What it offers instead is quieter and far more durable. A way to stay grounded when emotions rise. A way to act with clarity when pressure clouds judgment. A way to accept what you cannot change without losing your dignity. The Stoics didn't believe strength meant never feeling pain. They believed strength meant not being destroyed by it. If there's one thing to carry with you, let it be this. Life will apply pressure. That's not a failure. That's the condition of being alive. What matters is not whether pressure comes, but whether you've trained for it. You don't train by avoiding discomfort. You train by meeting it, with perception, with principle, and with acceptance. And this isn't something you master overnight. Stoicism isn't a switch you flip. It's a practice you return to, especially on days when you don't feel like it. So I'll leave you with one simple question. When life pushes back, which part of you usually loses control first? Perception, action, or will? If you want to, write just one word in the comments. Perception, action, or will. Not as a confession, as a starting point. Because awareness is where training begins. And one last thing. In the next video, I'll show you a simple 10-second practice. Stoics used to stop the spiral before it becomes a reaction. Quietly, deliberately, together.